you at when you heard Michael pass?
I was in Atlanta, man. I was in Atlanta, and it was like everybody else, man. I was like, couldn't believe it, and it was a sad day, man. But Michael left us so much, and every time his music comes on, man, I just get happy.
For years, Chris Tucker stayed surprisingly quiet about what happened to Michael Jackson. But now, the comedian is opening up about the final days of the King of Pop, and some of what he reveals could completely change the way you look at Michael's death. Tucker wasn't just another Hollywood celebrity. He was a close friend of Michael, someone who spent time with him away from the cameras and saw a side of him that the public rarely got to see. So when Chris Tucker started talking about Michael's final days, people immediately began paying attention.
He was so ahead of his time, and he really lived a full life, even though it wasn't long, but he lived a full life. I mean, he lived 100 lives, man, because he was incredible.
According to Michael Jackson's former bodyguard, Bill Whitfield, Chris Tucker was one of Michael's close friends and remained supportive of him during the most difficult period of his life. Whitfield also recalled that Tucker was present at Michael's funeral, something he viewed as significant given how few major celebrities were there. While many famous names had been connected to Michael throughout his career, Tucker was among the people who showed up when it mattered most, reflecting the personal bond the two had shared away from the spotlight.
Chris Tucker was a good friend of his. You know, they were good friends. And he did speak to him a lot. He even visited him a time or two. We went to the movies with Chris Tucker. Outside of him and Eddie Griffin, his mom, there was nobody around.
Michael Jackson's final days remain one of the most tragic periods of his life, leaving fans with countless questions about what he was going through behind the scenes. When recordings from the final days of his life emerged, they gave the public a rare and deeply emotional glimpse into Michael's state of mind and the circumstances surrounding his final performances.
I'm taking that money. I'm really children's hospital. The biggest in the world. Michael Jackson Children's Hospital. You have a movie theater, game room, children, and depression. In those hospitals, in the game room, the movie theater, they're sick because they're depressed. Their mind is depressing them. I want to give them that.
Hearing his voice during those moments was especially haunting, knowing that his life would come to an end just days later. The recordings quickly drew worldwide attention and became an important part of the story surrounding the events leading up to June 25th, 2009.
I care about them. From the ages. God wants me to do it. God wants me to do it. I'm gonna do it to that. I know you will. We have no hope. No hope. That's the next generation that's gonna save our planet. I'm starting with we'll talk about it. United States. Europe, frogs, and babies. They walk around. The mother, they drop them off. They leave the psychological degradation of that. And they reach out to me. Please take me with you. I want to do that for them.
For many fans, these recordings offer a painful glimpse into what Michael Jackson was enduring as he prepared for his long-awaited This Is It concerts. His voice and words have since been examined in documentaries and discussions surrounding his health, the use of propofol, and the events that unfolded before his death. What makes the audio even more difficult to hear is the knowledge of what was coming. Michael was working toward one of the biggest comebacks of his career, yet behind the excitement was a man dealing with serious physical and emotional pressure. Even years later, those final recordings remain deeply haunting for fans, capturing a vulnerable side of the superstar during the closing days of his life.
And that will we remember performances. My performances will be up there, helping my children. And always been my dream. I love them. And I love them because I didn't have a childhood. I had no childhood. I feel their pain. I feel their hurt. I can deal with it. Heal the world. We are the world. Will you be there? The lost children. These are the songs I've written because it hurt, you know? It hurt.
Among those who were present at Michael Jackson's home on the morning of June 25th, the memories of his personal chef offer one of the most emotional perspectives on what happened. According to her recollection, the day began like any other, with nothing suggesting that something catastrophic was about to unfold. But everything changed when concern over Michael's condition quickly turned into panic. Staff members realized something was seriously wrong, and what had started as a routine morning suddenly became a frantic effort to get medical help.
I go to preparing the lunch and wrapped his lunch like Mr. Jackson likes, wrapped in saran wrap, and because he likes, his lunch like he is at a hotel, kind of like room service.
Room service.
Yeah, exactly. So around 12:05, 12:10, Dr. Murray comes down the stairs, and there's a stairwell that leads into the kitchen. And he's screaming, "Hurry, go get Prince, call security, get Prince." So
Prince is?
Michael Jackson's eldest son. And so I drop everything that I'm doing, and I run into the den, which is very close to the kitchen. And I go get Prince. And Prince and I run back, and, he meets with Dr. Murray at the stairs. Prince stays downstairs with us, and Dr. Murray goes upstairs, but within minutes, the paramedics are there. And the security's running upstairs, skipping stairs, and all of a sudden we're all, panicked. What's going on, what's happening. So the energy in the house had kind of changed from that happy kind of day that we were having and preparing lunch and having a good time to just kind of eerie.
Well, what were the kids doing when this was going on? What were they saying? Were they...
The daughter, Paris, she starts screaming, "Daddy, Daddy, Daddy." We all started, crying. And
you knew something was wrong with
Michael. So we knew something was wrong. Something was wrong.
One of the most disturbing allegations surrounding Michael Jackson's final days came from a nurse who claimed that the singer repeatedly pleaded for propofol because he desperately wanted to sleep. The allegation painted a troubling picture of just how severe Michael's insomnia had reportedly become as he prepared for his "This Is It" concerts. According to the testimony, sleep had become a major struggle for him, adding to the physical and emotional pressure he was already facing.
He said, "Find me an anesthesiologist. I don't care how much money they want. Find me an anesthesiologist to be with me here overnight and give me this IV." My doctor told me this is a safe medicine. I said, "It is not a safe medicine. I just called a friend of mine. It has a multitude of side effects." I said, central nervous system problems, there's memory loss. The last end result of this is death. I said, "You don't want to do this." He said, "No, my doctor said it's safe. It works quick and it's safe. As long as somebody's here to monitor me and wake me up, I'm going to be okay." He kept saying anesthesiologist like he knew. I didn't even know what it said about the medicine and how it was used for anesthesia. So Michael was fully aware of it. He said, "I had it before and I slept good." And I said, "Well, it is not safe. I don't know why anyone is telling you it's safe." Well, it was really, really painful.
The claims later became part of the wider investigation into the circumstances surrounding his death, drawing intense public attention to Michael's treatment, his reliance on medication, and the events that unfolded during his final weeks.
Well, the person who called for him, I could hear Michael in the background. He called me and said, he was very frantic, and he said, "Michael needs to see you right away. Can you come and see him?" And I said, "What's wrong?" And I could hear Michael in the background, tell her that one side of my body is hot, and one side of my body is cold. It's very cold." And I said, "Tell him he needs to go to the hospital. I don't know what's going on with him right now, but I'm in Florida, and I cannot come. But he needs to, check that out immediately if he's having that type of symptom." I said, I'm not comfortable with that. Tell him to please go to the hospital and check that out right away.
One of the most haunting recordings associated with Michael Jackson's later years is a phone conversation in which he appeared deeply frightened about what might happen to him. During the call, Michael reportedly told a friend that he feared someone was trying to kill him. The disturbing statement has remained a subject of intense discussion among fans, particularly because it reflected the immense pressure and fear Michael was said to be experiencing during that period of his life.
Only God knows. They could shoot me. They could stab me. They could frame me and say I overdosed you with drugs. They can do a lot of things. Who could do this? It's not the government. It's more than the government. But I don't know how to die. I don't care. They can kill me.
While the recording has led to countless theories and speculation, it also offers a glimpse into how vulnerable and distressed the superstar may have felt behind closed doors. Even years later, the conversation continues to raise questions about what Michael was truly dealing with in the final chapter of his life.
I don't even care my life anymore. I just want my children to be okay. My baby just I want them to be safe. Mike. I gotta go.
After Michael Jackson's death, his sister LaToya Jackson publicly questioned the official account of what happened, saying she believed her brother's death was not simply an accident. She raised concerns about the people around Michael and suggested that others may have had financial motives connected to his death.
I knew something terrible would happen at the end, not to mention the fact that Michael constantly told me, LaToya, if I die, they're going to murder me, they're going to kill me. He would tell me that, Barbara. When I found out he had actually passed, I said, no, it wasn't an accident. He was murdered. Your brother was murdered. I always believed that from day one. I said, I'm not going to accept anything else, Barbara. They could have told me a heart attack. They could have told me he had fallen off a ladder, and I would have said, no, it's not a heart attack. He was murdered.
Meanwhile, Janet Jackson has spoken about Michael's memorial service from a deeply personal perspective. For her, it was more than a public farewell or a day filled with grief. It was also something the family needed, a moment to come together and face the loss as one.
What was it for you in that service that helped you, perhaps the most, in dealing with your brother's death?
There being some sort of a closure, I suppose, at that time. I haven't talked about this, Robin, with anyone. And you have to forgive me, I have this thing where I tend to smile. When things kind of get a little painful. I guess that's just my protective shield.
Surrounded by relatives, friends, and millions of people who had loved Michael, the family was able to honor his life while slowly confronting the reality that he was truly gone. For Janet, the memorial became an important first step in an incredibly painful journey of acceptance, giving the family a chance to stand together before beginning the long process of learning to live without him.
You were trying your best to comfort her. You were Auntie Janet at that moment? When she turned to you, did you just want to scoop her up and just protect her?
All of them. Not just her. Blanket, Prince, my other nieces and nephews. It's just tragic. It's hard for everybody. It's been very hard. I think we've been doing very well. I have a very strong family.
Joe Jackson also spoke publicly about the devastating loss of his son and raised questions about the events surrounding his final days. His words reflected the enormous pain of losing Michael, while also showing that he was not willing to simply move past the unanswered questions.
Let's see what happens. Yeah, Dr. Mary may talk. You know, he may start talking and call names and all that stuff. But if he does, yeah, you're gonna see people trying to scatter, you know. Or let's hope he lives through this situation. Something could happen to him. you know. We're just waiting to see what's going to happen. Yeah. Right now, they're watching him very closely at the jail, make sure that he don't commit suicide or do some stuff like that. They're watching him very close. Well, because last night was his first night in jail, you know, and he took it very hard. I'm hearing he's taking it very hard, and he was crying a lot. I heard that, you know. Why did they do this to me? So, hey, what can I say about it? I just have to wait and see what's gonna come down.
Tito Jackson has also recalled the devastating moment he first learned that something had happened to his brother. His son had seen the breaking news on television and alerted him before the family had received any official confirmation, leaving Tito trying to make sense of what he was hearing. Then, while Tito was driving, Janet called him. Hearing her voice made the situation painfully real. What had started as a shocking report on television was suddenly no longer just a rumor. It was a tragedy happening to his own family. In those few moments, Tito was forced to confront the possibility that he had lost his brother, Michael.
When you first heard about the news of Michael passing, what went through your head?
It was the worst feeling I've ever experienced in my life. You know, I've had other relatives who had passed away, but they weren't my close siblings. You know, they were like cousins or whatever, or friends. But when my brother passed away, it just seemed like my whole inner self just melted. I was actually I was at home building the studio that this album was recording on, and my son called me and he said, "Dad, is it true what they're saying on the news about Uncle Michael?" I said, "What they saying, son?" He said, "They said they just rushed him to the hospital under cardiac arrest." And I said to him, I said, "I don't know, let me find out." And so I immediately called my mom and to find out, turned on the news and saw what was going on, and I couldn't get her. So then I get a call back from my cousin, which is her chaperone, and he said, "Your mother would like for you guys to come to the hospital right now." I'm all drenched in carpenter clothes or whatever, so I'm looking like a bomb. So I take 5 minutes to dress myself, go to the gas station because I got to go to LA. And on my way there, my sister Janet calls me and she says, "Tito, are you driving?" And right then I knew that she was gonna give me some really, really bad information. And that's when I found out that my brother had passed away. And it was the saddest day of my life still.
For Tito, much of that responsibility centered on Dr. Conrad Murray. He believed that Murray's lack of proper attention and care contributed directly to the circumstances that led to his brother's death. Even while trying to hold on to the values he was taught growing up, Tito made it clear that the pain and anger surrounding Michael's final moments were not easy to let go of. Decades of family values could teach forgiveness. But for Tito, that did not mean forgetting what he believed had happened to his brother.
Do you feel any sort of anger towards the doctor that was working with Michael at the time who I guess prescribed him all that stuff?
Well, I've always been taught, especially through my mom, to forgive. You don't have to forget, but you should forgive people. Because people sometimes don't do things purposely. But I do fault him for not paying attention. He's a doctor and he knows what he did and whatever he was administering. To my brother, he should have been there watching and monitoring as a doctor and not on the phone with his girl.
Tito believed the world never got to see the full extent of what Michael could have accomplished. There were more songs to make, more performances to deliver, and more ideas waiting to become reality. That sense of unfinished potential made his death even harder to accept, because Michael's story ended at a moment when Tito felt his greatest creative years could still have been ahead of him.
You know, one of the things that Berry Gordy said during the funeral was that Michael accomplished everything he ever dreamed of. Would you agree?
No, because Michael was the type of person, he was a visionary, and Michael saw a brighter star. He saw a brighter star, and he's always imagining bigger and bigger and bigger. So I can imagine him thinking that way. Maybe Mr. Gordy felt that, but the thoughts of Michael Jackson is the scale has no limit. So.
Well, I mean, at the time of his passing, Michael Jackson was the most famous person on the planet.
Yes, yes. And he's still pretty much the same thing today. Everywhere I travel in the world, you know, I see his memorabilia or records or fan base or whatever is just totally there, you know, and even his spirits travel with us when we're on stage. We can feel his presence on stage. We can imagine what he would be doing at that time, and we get energy from that.
If you want more videos like this, hit like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments.